They said the forest was sleeping that night, quiet, windless, watching. But when the drums stopped and the torches dimmed, 3 shadows crawled out of the darkness: a wolf with ember eyes, a tiger striped like a raging storm, and a lion whose roar could split a man's courage in half. They walked straight into Bengala Village, not for food, but for a newborn child. And that night would become the beginning of a legend. As this story begins, do me a favor, drop a like, subscribe, and let me know what kind of tales you enjoy most. Your comments guide every new episode. For generations, clans living around the Shadow Forest abandoned their huts and farms once the 3 beasts began terrorizing the region. But Bengala Village remained unmoved. Their lives depended on the forest, firewood for their homes, hides and meat for trade, and farmlands rich with black soil that yielded abundant harvests. To leave the forest was to lose their identity. Among them lived a respected young hunter named Oberon, 28 years old, broad-shouldered and sharp-eyed, known for his unmatched skill and deep knowledge of the forest. His wife, Nanya, gentle and radiant with cowries braided into her hair, was 23 when she gave birth to their first child, a boy they named Pankala, the one who rises. But on the night of his birth, as rain clouds gathered over Bengala, an omen appeared. The 3 wild beasts, never known to enter any village, walked boldly into Bengala for the first time in history. Their claws dug into the wet soil, their breaths rising like smoke. They moved as though guided by something unseen, heading straight toward the hut where newborn Pankala lay. Hunters rushed from every direction. Spears clashed, arrows flew, and firelight flickered violently across the beast's monstrous forms. In the chaos, Oberon stood firm, but the tiger's claws tore deep into his left leg, and the lion struck him across the face, blinding his right eye. With great difficulty, the hunters drove the beasts back into the forest. But the damage was done. Oberon's body healed with herbs and thyme, yet his hunting strength was never the same. Still, he carried no bitterness. He believed his son was born for something greater. When Pankala turned 8, Oberon, though limping and half-blind, began taking him deep into the Shadow Forest. Dawn after dawn, they walked through dew-covered paths, listening to the whispering leaves and the distant cries of forest creatures. Oberon taught him the secrets of the forest: how to move without sound, how to smell danger before seeing it, how to track an animal through broken twigs and disturbed soil, how to read the mood of the wind. But while Oberon trained him for survival, Pankala learned for a different purpose, born from stories whispered by elders and the memory of the night he could not remember. He trained to face the 3 beasts one day. On a misty morning when Pankala turned 20, Oberon ventured into the forest alone for a routine hunt. Hours passed. The forest grew unnaturally silent. Then a roar shattered the calm. When hunters arrived, they found Oberon's body lying beneath an ancient fig tree, brutalized beyond saving. His spear was snapped in half beside him. Nanya collapsed in grief. Pankala trembled as he held his father's hand for the final time, tears falling onto the carved wooden spear Oberon had once crafted. The village mourned for days, drums beating slowly, elders chanting for his spirit's peaceful journey. But inside Pankala, something changed. Grief sharpened into fire, and fire sharpened into resolve. Pankala trained harder than any hunter before him. He ran through the forest at dawn, studied beast patterns with the village elders, and learned to disappear among trees and shadows. Under the guidance of the elderly hunters, Orunta, Kagan, and Masilo, he learned how the beasts thought, how they moved, how they hunted. The forest began to accept him as its own. Birds paused when he passed, and even the winds whispered around him. After months of preparation, he set his first trap. Near the moonlit river where the wolf drank each night, Pankala laid a snare. The trap snapped, and the wolf lunged with a fury that shook the bushes. Pankala dodged, rolled, and drove his spear straight into its heart. Word spread. The village erupted in celebration. Fires burned high. Drums echoed through the night. But deep in the forest, the tiger and lion roared, rage shaking leaves from branches. Long before Pankala became a warrior, the people of Tawuka, who had previously lived as a neighboring village to Bengala, believed the forest was alive, not just with animals, but with spirits of the fallen, restless, and vengeful. The elders whispered of beasts that were not just born, but reborn by pain, injustice, and blood. They said the tiger was one of those. It had hunted their fathers, chased their children, and haunted their fires. It was not just a beast, it was a curse that prowled on 4 legs. But on the 8th moon, their fate changed. The day Pankala and his warriors tracked the tiger, something ancient began to shift. The hunt for the tiger lasted 3 moons, across thorn-thick bushes and cliffs that tore skin like blades. Pankala, lean, brave, and sharp-eyed, led his warriors through night and storm, guided only by tracks, blood drops, and faith. When they finally found the tiger, it was not hiding. It was waiting. The tiger attacked like lightning, claws slicing shields, teeth ripping through leather. It dragged 2 men into the shadows before anyone could scream. But Pankala saw something the others did not. The tiger favored its left leg. He turned the weakness into its downfall. With 3 brave hunters, he led the final attack. They drove it into a narrow dry gorge where it could not leap. They fought with spears, traps, torches, until the beast fell beneath a rain of blades. When the tiger's great body finally stilled, the forest went silent. Not relieved. Not peaceful. Silent, like something was listening. They returned home as heroes. Songs rose. Drums rumbled. Fires burned through the night. Maidens danced around Pankala, children repeated stories of his bravery, and the elders smiled with pride. But under one dying fire, a blind old woman shook her head. "Do not dance yet," she whispered. "The forest hunts back." No one listened. Not until the lion came. At the height of the celebration, when the dancers' feet struck the earth in perfect rhythm, the earth itself answered with a different kind of tremor, a low, rumbling growl. Before anyone understood what was happening, a massive shape burst from the darkness like a curse ripped open from the ground itself. The lion. Bigger than any they had imagined, its mane shook like burning grass, and its eyes glowed with a hatred older than the forest. It crashed into the center of the celebration with such force that the drums fell silent mid-beat. The first person to fall was the village chief. The lion snatched him with a single swipe, flinging him aside as if he were made of banana leaves. Screams replaced songs. Torches scattered. The beast lunged again, tearing into 2 warriors before anyone could raise a spear. Pankala reacted first, shoving women and children toward safety, but by the time reinforcements gathered, the lion had already disappeared into the night, a shadow swallowed back into the forest. That night, grief choked the village. Their chief was gone. Their joy had turned to ashes. But dawn brought no mercy. As Pankala and his hunters marched into the forest to track the lion, the beast was already watching them. It was not running, it was planning. When they reached the river bend, the lion struck like lightning. 3 young hunters fell before anyone could blink. One slashed in the back, another knocked unconscious, the third left bleeding into the sand. The lion roared at the rest, not just with anger but with strategy. It wanted panic. It wanted confusion. It wanted the hunters to be disorganized and afraid. And then, as if proving its intelligence, it did the unthinkable. It ran toward the village. Not toward warriors, but toward the weakest. By the time the alarm sounded, the lion was already in the heart of the settlement, scattering baskets, clawing through doorframes, chasing fleeing maidens and terrified children. Mothers dragged sons by the wrist. Young girls hid behind overturned pots. A baby cried in the open until an elderly woman snatched him into her trembling arms. Pankala arrived at chaos. The lion was not just attacking, it was breaking their coordination, trying to split the warriors apart. But Pankala's mind was sharper than any claw. "Do not chase it blindly," he shouted. "It wants confusion. Form the circle." In seconds, he gathered his scattered warriors, reclaimed formation, and began steering the lion back into the forest, not by force, but by intention. Every shout, every movement, every spear throw was carefully placed to make retreat seem like the lion's only option. And the lion took it. Deeper and deeper it ran, unaware that Pankala was guiding it straight into a trap prepared only in his mind. Until that moment. They cornered the beast in a narrow rocky passage. Tall trees fenced the sky. The lion turned, panting, its mane soaked with blood, not yet defeated, but finally within reach. Torches! Pankala ordered. Flames erupted around the lion, tightening like a burning noose. The beast snarled, pacing left, then right, realizing too late that every exit was blocked. Pankala gave a single nod. The warriors activated the trap, a mechanism of rope-triggered spears hidden beneath leaves and branches. 3 spears shot forward with a whistle that cut through the forest like a scream. One pierced the lion's neck. Another buried itself in its chest. The last drove deep into its stomach. The king of the forest staggered, roared once, a roar that shook even the bravest, then collapsed. The hunters stood still, breathing hard. Waiting. Watching. Only when the great beast's chest stopped rising did Pankala step forward, bow his head, and whisper, "Your terror ends here." And the forest finally fell silent. They carried the lion's body home not in triumph, but in respect. That night, the village did not sing. They did not dance. Instead, they lit quiet fires and listened to the wind, wondering if they had just ended a curse, or awakened a deeper one. And somewhere, deep in the forest, beneath the earth and beneath the roots, something else opened its eyes. Peace. Villagers gathered around the fallen beast, their faces lit by torchlight. Slowly, realization washed over them. The terror of generations was over. Pankala knelt beside the lion and whispered, "For my father, for my people." The elders lifted him high. The people cheered his name, their voices rising into the night sky. And on that night, beneath the stars and the whispering trees, Pankala was crowned the new chief of Bengala Village, protector of the forest, slayer of the 3 beasts, and living legend of his people. The end. Thanks for listening. If this tale sparked your imagination, let me know in the comments. Before you go, hit the like button, subscribe, and share the type of stories you'd love to hear in the future. Your suggestions inspire the next story.